Hi, welcome to Chills and Matcha. So today I'll be doing a book review about a book that I recently finished. It's called When Breath Becomes Air by the author Paul Kalanithi. So it is a New York Times bestseller, and basically it is a memoir about a neurosurgeon who was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and his journey through the whole diagnosis and treatment stages, as well as his thoughts and his reflection about how he became a neurosurgeon, his years studying as an undergrad medical student, and the fact that he was a neurosurgeon himself gave him the in-depth insight into his own prognosis. So he knew exactly what was going to happen. So what I loved the most about the book was that it was so raw, and it deals with what is probably one of the most important questions that we need to face here, which is what is our purpose here, and how do we deal with maximizing our time and improving our quality of life in the face of impending death. So apart from contemplating his purpose in life, Paul also recounts back the days where he was working as a neurosurgeon, and he talks about he was always working long overnight shifts, and he was faced with the difficult decisions of whether to provide a surgical solution to a patient, and how cutting a tumor even 2 millimeters deeper than he was supposed to can have significant impact on a patient's outcome and their quality of life. And Paul also talks about how even if you can have all the materialistic things at your disposal, even if you can appear to have accomplished so much in your life, life can be ironic. And perhaps holding on to what is the most meaningful to us and maximizing our quality of life while we are on planet Earth should be what we strive for. As Paul himself realized that even though he was an expert in the field of medicine and surgery, he was unable to escape his fate. Paul also talks about his decision to have a child via IVF procedure with his wife in his last days. So in a sense, this was to add some further meaning to his last days and also provide comfort to his wife Lucy, but he stresses the fact that by having a child in his last days, it was by no means to fulfill a dying man's wish. So towards the end of the book, Paul's health was in rapid decline, and unfortunately he did not have the strength or the energy to complete his manuscript. So his wife Lucy wrote an epilogue to the book, recording his last days, and also she talks about what perhaps lies ahead for herself and her daughter. So to conclude this book review, I have learned 5 lessons. Number 1 is that we need to live every day with some sort of purpose. If we don't have a purpose, then it's hard to see what makes life meaningful. And the second lesson I have learned is that we need to take our health seriously. Even though life can be unpredictable, I think it's always important to prevent diseases from happening, and at the end of the day, health is our number 1 asset. If we don't have our health, if we are not living, then nothing else really matters. And the third lesson that I have learned is that work is important, but it's not everything in life, and we shouldn't overwork so much that it consumes us, unless of course you love your work and it is much more than work. It's one of your passions, and that's a different story. The fourth lesson that I have learned is that it is an absolute gift that we're all here today. So even making this video, I am so grateful that I am physically here, and the same goes for you. I think it's so precious that we're all here on planet Earth. We're existing. What are the odds? There are people that we're not fortunate enough to live till this day. So it's always important to be grateful and perhaps use our time, maximize it, and realize that our time is limited, and just because someone else were not fortunate enough to live until this day, we still have the opportunity to live on, and we need to use our time wisely. And number 5 is that we all need to be strong even when we're faced with the most difficult circumstances, and we need to make the most out of our everyday. And that's probably one of the things that impressed me the most about Paul Kalanithi, is that he was so strong even though he knew what his prognosis would be like. Even though he knew his days were numbered, he was still being a pillar for his family and in front of his colleagues. So I hope you enjoyed this book review, and I'll see you next time.